In the military, you're not allowed to get in debt. And everything I thought before was a lie.
What does it take to thrive and survive financial duress? Let's hear from Joe, a 20-year Navy veteran, and hear how he secured a financial future.
When you're at rock bottom, as I was taught in the military.
Really? Can you ballpark for me? Think about the furthest in debt that you were.
$578,000.
Wow.
I took a lot of personal loans out so my ex could start her own business. It's my spouse. I believe in them. I trust them. And then when you find out afterwards, oh my gosh, the blinders that you had on, you have to take responsibility for your actions. How do I deal with this? You reach out for help. You're going to come out on the other end a lot better person, in a lot better position, and happier about your life. It's kind of a no-brainer when you put it that way.
So you originally grew up in Ohio.
Yes.
Like we talked about. You had told me before that you had never seen the ocean before boot camp.
Never saw the ocean. I was actually supposed to go to boot camp in Great Lakes. The day I left, my father, the night before I had to leave, hey, Dad, are you going to take me to the MEP station in Cincinnati tomorrow? I really need a ride. Well, I quit messing around, boy. Dad, if I don't show up tomorrow, I'm going to jail. You're serious? Yes. I've been telling you for 6 months. I'm leaving for the Navy tomorrow. When I got there, they gave me tickets for San Diego. And as we flew out, when you go into San Diego airport, you go out into the ocean, come back around and land. I'm like, oh, so that's the ocean. Cool. What have I gotten myself into? Never planned on staying 20 years. I ended up being 20 years in, 15 years sea time, gone all the time. Wonderful experience. Glad I had it. Don't miss it at all.
You said that to me. Don't miss it at all.
I miss the people. Because just like anything, everything's becoming politicized. And you're condemned for your beliefs. And, beliefs are just that, beliefs. They're not facts. Politics, religion, useless, both of them.
You said that to me previously, which was you miss the people.
Yes.
And you said you also miss the camaraderie.
Oh, very much so. People and camaraderie, it goes along hand in hand. You don't make friends quite the way you do outside the service as you do in. There are people right now that I haven't seen in 15 years, some of them 20 years. If they call me up and said they need something tomorrow, I'm going to be there because of what we went through in the service. There's just there's a instant bond when your life depends on somebody else. And any serviceman or woman, police officers, and EMTs, firefighters, those who are that your life is on the line daily, the bonds you make with those people are extremely special. Of course, you still have bonds, but you may hate some of your coworkers because you just can't stand them as human beings. But by gosh, when the rubber hits the road, they need something. You've got their back. Now, you're not going to go have a beer with them afterwards. But if it doesn't matter what happens, we used to say inside the rails, life rails on both sides of the ship. Inside the rails, you're a family. Go outside the rails, I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. Good, that's fine. The life that you learn and come to thrive with is amazing. When you look back and think of it, you're like, I would never have looked at these people twice prior to going into the service.
Yeah.
But because of what you're going through, because you know that today could be your last day. Things are a lot closer, a lot quicker than you could ever have imagined. You may be one of the most distrustful human beings in the world, but if you're in the service in any length of time, especially if you re-enlist and spend 20 years in, you find out real quick, everything I thought before was a lie because I'm living things that I never thought I would even put up with. And you turn out you like it. I mean, why else would I have stayed for 20 years, for God's sake?
Well, I was going to ask you. So 2003, you retire.
I retired from the Navy in
2003. So the quick math on that is about 1983.
June 30th, 1983, June 30th, 2003.
Wow.
That's the time I spent in the Navy. 20 years to the day.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do one day over 20 years because, like I said earlier, the politics, the way the government runs things, and I was tired of being a guinea pig.
Do you remember, and this is asking you to go back to 1983 and before, do you remember the reason? Why the Navy? Why service?
I knew that I did not have the money to go to college. My older brother was genius level, couldn't get any kind of student loans. And our area was so depressed at that time They didn't count on anybody from our area to pay back their student loans, so he couldn't get it. And I'm like, he was a straight A student. I wasn't because, well, I worked. I've been working a 40-hour-a-week job since I was 12. And I'm like, if he couldn't get into college, there's no way I'm getting to college. And I said, I don't want to stay here. I want to go experience the world. And that's one of the reasons why, as I said earlier, I didn't think I'd ever move back to Ohio. I'd only ever been in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana in very, very short time in Indiana. So I'd never been anywhere. I'd never seen anything. I wanted to explore the world. I read voraciously, and this was long before the internet. I wanted to go experience other places, other cultures, other peoples. I wanted to see what this world was all about. And I said, okay, let's join the service. I said, I know that I'll be sent overseas. And then it comes to patriotism in it. I really, and even more so now than in 1983, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the United States is the best place in this world to live. Do we have a lot wrong? Oh, God, yes. Even more so today, thanks to the current regimes. But having the chance to be able to speak your mind, just to be able to have a freedom to say, I disagree. I found out real quick. It's a very rare thing to be able to say, I disagree with you. I don't like our politicians. I don't like our president, our governor, our mayor. And you're not thrown in jail for it or stoned to death, depending upon where you're at in the world. There's a lot of places that don't have that liberty. And the biggest thing I try to put across to my children now, and my bonus children, I'm going to be getting married in August, to my high school sweetheart. I tell them, I know that there's things you don't like about this country. I know there's things you don't like about how it's ran, the laws, the rules. Some of them are anti-police, which bugs the heck out of me. But I understand their viewpoints. They're allowed to have those viewpoints. And I tell them, you don't have any idea how lucky you are to be able to have a differing viewpoint and to be able to say that in social media, just in school.
Yeah.
Anywhere you're at, you can say that. And you're allowed to, and even though you'll catch heck for some places, and some places a lot more than just heck, you're still allowed to do it. 90% of the world you're not. And even in the other 10% of the world that you can, they don't treat you worse because you have a different opinion. And that's where the patriotism I had was the old, mom, apple pie, and baseball. That was, the gold. Of course, I was raised with the golden generation too. My grandfather, great uncles had been in World War II. Some of them had been in Korea. My father was in the Air Force between Korea and Vietnam. Some of my uncles were in Vietnam. Got treated like total crap. And throughout all that and witnessing that and hearing that, I believed in this country. And so many people say, well, boy, that was a mistake, wasn't it? It's like, no, not at all. If anybody wants to put down patriotism as white privilege, as anything, a homer, just, brainwashed, then they haven't lived in this country and had a hard time and been able to make it up through the ranks to where and be on a path to where they want to go and be happy with it. My patriotism is even more strong now.
There's something interesting about talking with you and talking with other veterans, the candor, the honesty, just around your perspective. I'm curious about your transition to civilian life because not a lot of people are having these kind of open and honest conversations, and so I love to hear about that.
The transition to civilian life was a lot harder than the transition to military life. And people ask when I tell them that, they ask, "Well, why is that?" Because you had to get beaten down physically and mentally in boot camp and remade. Well, yeah, but when you realize your life may depend upon it, it becomes a lot easier to do that. And when you go from the military life to where when you wake up in the morning, you've done more stuff before 6 o'clock than most people do in an entire day, and you're doing stuff that matters. Not that anybody's jobs don't matter. There's people with very important jobs, doctors, firemen, nurses, all those matter. But when you literally are the wall between, when I first went in, communist Russia, communist China, those were our enemies, so to speak, at the time. And of course, that's pounded into you that, you when you don't see what these people are living like, they're my enemy. The everyday Russian's not my enemy. The everyday Chinese person's not my enemy. It's all the governments, politicians, religious factions. That's what makes all the strife in the world. So you tell people that, it's harder to go back to the civilian sector because you're used to doing. You're not wasting time trying not to get your work done, but get paid for it, like a lot of civilian people do. I would say at least 90% of everybody, they don't work in a job they love. They're working so they can pay their bills, which obviously nowadays bills are worse. Everything's cost more. But you've got an actual meaning to your life, and you bring that out to the civilian sector. You're used to just, okay, we've got a job to do. Let's do this. Let's get this done now. I don't know how many times I was told, hey, slow down. You're making us look bad. You're, for lack of better terminology, you're pissing me off because you're lazy. No, I'm not going to sit there and waste time and get paid money to waste time. I've got a job to do. I want to do it to the best of my ability, and I've got a deadline. I want to beat that deadline. Why do I want to beat that deadline? Because I got the next thing to work on after that. Oh my gosh, I caught so much strife from so many people. What's wrong with you? Are you kissing the boss's butts? No, it has nothing to do with that. I've got a job to do. I want to get my job done because I have a sense of purpose. I have a sense of direction. I have a sense of accomplishment that you're not taught most of the time in the civilian sector. They don't have that. A lot of people say today, oh, the generation now, they're afraid of work. That's not true. They were raised differently. Things were a lot easier in some aspects. They're a lot more complicated because a lot more stuff is available to everybody at a much younger age. It's a different world we live in now. And I find that the people who adjust the easiest are those who've been in the service. Change is a factor that you live with all the time. You're never going to be in the same place for 25 years in the service. You're moved around from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. Even if like I said, most of the time I was in Norfolk. For most of my naval career, 14 out of my 20 years was in Norfolk, Virginia. I had numerous ships I was on, different commanding officers, different division officers. Change is happening all the time. You have to adjust to change. And you learn real quick. Change isn't bad. It's change. What's going to be bad about it is what you make of it. If you look at it negatively, it's going to be negative. It's going to be bad. It's going to be something harder. If you look at it as, oh, it's just change. What do I need to do to adapt and still get my job done, which is saving the country's behind? No problem. You find out that you can adjust to change a lot quicker when you have a real motive behind what you're changing to. It's not easy sometimes. Sometimes the change is bad no matter what you do about it, but you deal with it. Having the patience, having the fortitude to say, this is a bad situation. I know it's going to change within probably 2 to 3 years at the most. I can put up with anything. And that's why a lot of times that's the other hardest faction about moving to the civilian sector. Oh, somebody called me something at work. I'm quitting. Really? That's the reason you're going to quit? Because somebody called you a name? Wow. Okay. Well, good luck with that. Best, find your excellence elsewhere.
The fortitude thing is really interesting. And I think that's really, it's an interesting perspective to have just in terms of I've got this thing that I'm dealing with, whatever it is. When you and I first started talking and we talked about your debt and we talked about the challenges associated with that, you came off as somebody who looked at this from a different perspective of I'm not just going to kind of roll over. I'd be curious to know what your perspective is on that.
In the military, you're not allowed to get in debt. You get punished. You'll get taken into what they call captain's mast, or that's where you get in trouble.
Yeah.
They'll bust you down a rank. You lose money. So if you get into debt, you're going to lose more money. So it didn't happen. Then when I got with the spouse I was with and made decisions based on it's my spouse. I believe in them. I trust them. Had no reason not to trust them. And then when you find out afterwards, oh my gosh, the blinders that you had on, and they were blinders, my fault completely. You have to take responsibility for your actions. Even though I was lied to, I let it happen. I made the decisions. I have to accept the consequences. And when I realized that, oh, I'm not going to get any help on this, how do I deal with this? You reach out for help. You have to reach out for help, because if you just sit and suffer in silence and you don't hit the lottery, or you don't have you don't have any rich relatives who are going to die and leave you money, you've got to deal with it. So what do you do? I was in some pretty bad headspace for a while about it, because I'd never been in that kind of financial difficulty, and that hurt my pride. I had to swallow my pride, and that was hard too. But you realize as an adult, hopefully, pride is a great motivator, but pride can also be a complete debilitator. It'll tear you down, it'll throw you out, and it doesn't care about you whatsoever. Whether or not I was mostly at fault or not mostly at fault with the help of my ex-spouse, it doesn't matter, because it was my problem. It was all in my name. So you live and learn. You reach out. Who do you recommend to help me out with this? What can I do? I've got this debt going on, and I got hold of Veterans Debt Assistance. Listened to them, did all the research I possibly could, and it turned out to be a really good thing. Now, does it hurt for a while? Oh, yeah. It takes years to get into a lot of financial difficulties. It takes years to get out of it. And that's where the fortitude comes in. That's where the patience comes in. That's where it hurts right now, but it's going to hurt a lot less later on. If you let it go, it's going to keep on hurting and hurt worse every single day. So it's just taking it upon, it's personal responsibility. It's just looking in the mirror saying, do you want to be able to look tomorrow morning and say, I respect you for what the job you did. You're doing your best. Yeah, then do the right thing. It's going to hurt. Take your stripes, move on.
You said in the first conversation when we were talking about veteran debt assistance, one of the things that you had mentioned, and I wrote this down because I actually circled it, so you get double points for that. But you said you just have to face the cold, hard reality. Mm-hmm. You made mistakes. What are you going to do about getting out of those mistakes?
Exactly. It's honesty with yourself, and it's holding yourself accountable. If you're going to hold yourself accountable and take any kind of praise for any good that you do, whether it be with your children, your spouse, your community, your job, then by God, if you make a mistake, you have to own up to the mistake. You have to own that mistake, and then you have to make it right. You don't repeat it. That's what I just carried on with what I had learned in life. Said it, the cold hard reality is you made an error. You made a system of errors for whatever reason you did them. You did them. You can't cry about it. Well, you can. You can feel sorry for yourself for the longest time. Meanwhile, it's just going to get worse and worse. And as I was taught in the military, if you've got a problem, face it, address it, fix it to the best of your ability, make sure you don't do it again. So the quicker you do that, the quicker you get to the other side of it, and then you're free to do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, without repeating those mistakes you made to get there in the first place. So it's that cold hard reality, and I found it's really odd. Some service members, a lot of them I've seen, they won't do it. It's the pride that gets in the way. The pride stops them from reaching out to somebody and saying, "Help. I made errors. I made mistakes. How can I fix it?" No, I'll take care of it myself. And then that's where you see homeless vets. That's where you see, people in jail, just bad situation after bad situation. I'm not going to go there. I told myself a long time ago, if you're going to be a man, you want to set an example for your kids, number one, siblings, the community. As soon as somebody knows you and they know you can make a mistake, but you're going to do whatever you can to make it right and not repeat it. Number one, your circle of friends grows, and your circle's a lot more trustworthy. Number two, you trust yourself more next time to not make the same stupid decisions you made in the first place. And that's just where it's at for me. The vets that I've seen, and especially the ones who are in positions to recommend places like Veterans Debt Relief or whatever one that somebody else may choose, they're the ones who embrace those same characteristics of just ownership of a problem, self-responsibility, and just taking action sooner rather than later. It served me well. I'm now on the uphill climb, looking back over my shoulder and saying, wow, that really sucked. So the quicker you get out of that, the better you're going to be in the future.
Because you've been the recipient of sort of advice provided by other service members. knowing you're also kind of paying that forward and sharing that. Is it the sentiment of you got yourself in this hole, you got to figure out how to get out? Is it, no time like the present? What's the comments that you would provide to somebody, a veteran who's been in that circumstance?
Be they veteran or non-veteran, anyone who comes to you for help, you realize yourself having been through it. Number one, they swallow their pride. That's the first and foremost thing. It's just like the old adage. The first way to fix a problem is admit there's a problem. If you get past that pride and your self-wounding and say, I need help, because others help me, it's incumbent upon myself to help others out, if not better than I was helped myself. I know the pain, the shame, the disgrace you feel when you made those mistakes, and you have to reach out to somebody. If I can tell somebody and get them to get help even quicker than I did, look, own it, work through it, accept the bad that's going to come your way, because it's just going to be bad coming. You make an error, things are going to happen. Nobody gets off scot-free from anything. I know that I can be of assistance to you. I've been through it. Here's what happened to me. And you share that part of you. Not only, a lot of times you're making a friend, because somebody comes to you for help and you're able to give them help. You've seen them at one of their lowest points. You share with them, here's my lowest point. It's very similar to yours. I made it through, so can you. You're sharing something with somebody that can enable them to take themselves out of the depths of despair and to bring themselves back up to where they can enjoy the now and look forward to the future. Why shouldn't I pay that forward? It's a sense of community for just my fellow man, because it doesn't matter if it's a serviceman, servicewoman or not. Somebody comes to me for help and I can help them out, especially in the financial problems I've had. I owe it to them.
I'm curious about the practical element here. Are they talking to you about, I'm paying $700 a month, and you shoot back, I was paying $1,000. I mean, what was sort of your financial situation at the beginning, and now kind of where you're at in the present?
Well, the beginning, it was to not go into a lot of particulars. The Reader's Digest version. I took a lot of personal loans out so my ex could start her own business. She had both her parents passed, and she inherited a lot of money. She couldn't access it, though, as quick as she wanted for the good deal she found for the salon she wanted to open. And let's face it, salon,
it's right up your alley.
not so much. And I know nothing about running a business, so I'm like, okay, this is your this is your bailiwick. This is your baby. I'll get you the money, but as soon as you get it back, as soon as you get access to the funds, please, hey, you're my wife, pay it back. Great. I got way in over my head, and then she started paying off friends things. She bought friends gifts and wasn't paying anything on any of the debts that I had incurred for her. What are you doing? Hey, when are you going to do this? Oh, don't worry about it. I got it. Okay. You believed blindly once again. Truth was right there. You didn't want to see it. So my eyes are a little bit more wide open. My peripherals work a lot better than they used to. And I lost a clearance because of it. I lost a job because of it. You get into too much debt, they take away your security clearance. And that was as a civilian. But I was honest about that, because I went to my boss and said, hey, look, I made mistakes. I did this, yada, yada, yada. I'm self-reporting because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's what we got to do. Do this, this, and this. 2 years later, I lost my clearance. I lost my job. I had to take a job that I was making 50% of what I used to make before. I still had the same bills. If you can't afford them when you're making something, and you're only making 50% of what you made then, wow, it hurts. Luckily, after we finally got divorced, we had a very nice house in Virginia, sold it, and I was able to use what we made off the house, because that's when the market blew up and everything was worth 5 times more than what it should have been. Finally paid off the debts for the most part. And if it hadn't been for that, I may have been facing bankruptcy, and didn't want to, was in the process of doing it, because I would not have been able to pay it back. I didn't want to go to jail. I'm not made for jail. I have a face for radio, But I don't want a good morning kiss in jail. It's not a good thing.
So how far along the bankruptcy route were you?
I was within 2 months of actually having the first bankruptcy hearing,
Okay.
which is in the scheme of things, it takes about, at that time, anywhere from 8 months to 18 months to finally get your first court date. So I was about 2 months from I had a court date, and it was all set, ready to go. And then I'm like, whoa, here we go. And I was able to avoid that, thank God. Knock on wood.
You had mentioned there was this gradual realization. Was there just a one day, oh no, I'm in way over my head. I can't possibly pay this back?
When I went to my ex and said, look, I also took out loans for your kids for cars. Her kids, not mine. Never adopted them. They were all over 18 because your father wanted them to have it, and their father passed away. And you said as soon as you get access to the money, you'd pay it back. You haven't paid it back. When are you going to do so? I'll get to it right away. And also, the business is failing. It's in my name. It's bleeding, hemorrhaging terribly from the word go. I have to shut it down. You don't love me. Well, the blinders all came off at that time because then I realized she's not going to pay anything back. She didn't care about losing money. It was her business. And she wasn't. Then I said, well, we need you to get a job. You're not spending any time at the business, which is failing miserably. You need to get a job. I'm not working. About a 48-hour period where all the blinders were ripped away. The scabs were all ripped off. And I'm just like, wow, I am in some deep kimchi. What can I do? And I started to put the plans into motion within 48 hours after that. Thank you, military, because instead of sitting around wallowing, realizing I could sell everything that I personally own and it's not going to make a dent in some of these bills. What do I need to do?
So we talk about the darkest days, the hardest days, those 48 hours.
Oh, yeah. Those were ugly.
Yeah.
It's just a full realization hits you when you take a look. This is what I have. I literally have, even to this day, I keep an Excel spreadsheet, expenses, what's paid. And I learned that from my father back in the 1970s. And I'm like, well, I can't pay this. I'm behind on this. I can rob Peter to pay Paul on this for a little while, but then eventually it's going to catch up to me. This should have been paid off. This should have been paid off. And 90% of the bills we had were supposed to have already been paid off. And I would have been sitting fine. Like I said, I was making a very good salary being a systems engineer working on aircraft carriers. I was really good at my job, loved that job. I lost it because of all this. And I realized that at the time too, I'm going to lose my job. So that was a real rough 48 hours, but it was just rough or not. You've got to look the monster in the eye. You've got to just say, okay, I know you're there. I'm going to deal with you the best I can. And it's just, as we used to say in the military all the time, I'm taking one for the team. And I knew I was going to be the only one taking one for the team.
Yeah.
No backup, no help. And that's when I also realized my marriage was irreparably broken and it was over.
I mean, when it rains, it pours, right?
Well, I would run right straight. It was sprinkling to a tsunami. So it was one of those, I didn't even have a chance to starting to pour, maybe a little bit of hail and some lightning and thunder. It just went to bam. And I'm like, let's deal with it. And it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It was not fun at all. But I made it through. It said perseverance, taking responsibility for where you're at, making a plan of action, following your plan of action, modifying it only if it's going to help you, not hurt you. I held up my end to every one of my responsibilities, every single one of them. Sometimes they didn't pay the full amount, but that's just because, a lot of places charge you ridiculous interest. And why? Because they're making money. It's all about making money. But I met my responsibilities. I could still look myself in the mirror and say, you did the right thing. Finally, but you did the right thing. Just don't make the same mistake. You can't afford to make the same mistake. You're getting older. Like I said, I just turned 60, this year. And I told myself I want to be on the better side of things by the time I hit 58 at the time. Oh, no, 59. And I am. Still not fully fixed. I'm still on the up, though, which is a good thing.
Can you ballpark for me when you were, think about the furthest in debt that you were?
$578,000.
And that didn't disappear overnight.
That's not a ballpark. That's the figure. It's one of those. Okay, you take a look at everything you owe on. Now, granted, I had a house and a mortgage, so you have to take that into account, and you just add up the total of what your responsibilities are, and you look at that number, and you're like, "Wow, I can't do that. I should have been able to do it. Had I not been lied to, here's the reality of the situation. Here's what you've got. What's your difference? What can you do about it?" Because if you just ignore it, it's not going away. It's just getting worse. And you're going to pay more. You're going to pay more in the end. Like I said, jail time was I was looking at it going, oh my God, I'm going to jail. I'm not a jail person. No, this is not going to happen. What can I do? And just start trudging through it. It lasts for a long time. Like I said, I'm still not 100% out of everything, only because, it's going to take a while for the credit. As soon as you make a mistake credit-wise, they gouge you for it, and it takes forever to work your way back up. But you look at it, you do what you can about it, you pay off what you can when you can, you have communications with debtors, you just don't run and hide. You face up all across the board. And it's real tough, because debt collectors, they're trained to be assholes, for lack of a better word, and they are. And some of them are really good at it. But when you're like, hey, look, oh, yeah, I know. Here's what the story is. Here's what I'm doing about it. Here's who you need to contact because you no longer contact me. You're going to contact these people.
It's interesting that you talk about learning from your father, keeping your Excel sheet, having gone through the ringer on the brink of bankruptcy.
On the very edge.
I mean, right there. And as you're kind of looking at different options and you land on something like veteran debt assistance. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through how you got there? What was the initial reaction?
Well, it was one of I looked at numerous places for help. A friend of mine had actually used veterans debt assistance and said, look, here's what they did for me. It turned out good. I listened to them. You're good. It's going to hurt. You're still going to meet your responsibilities. They're just cutting out a lot of the interest. They're getting rid of the fat on the pork. So you're still going to be paying, but it's going to be something that they're going to look at it if they can help you. Because some places I went to before I went to the veterans debt assistance, they're like, we can't help you. You don't make enough to be able to afford what we're doing. Okay, thank you. I mean, you don't take anything personally. I didn't because you can't. You can't afford to. You take all this stuff personally, you're going to end up in a loony bin. My one friend in particular, through the VFW resource, and said, look, I used this when I got into some difficulties. Here's what they did. Here's what they told me. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. That's where that veteran camaraderie comes in. I've got another vet who I, love with all my heart and said, this is real. These people are good. They did this for me, shared their story with me. Okay, this one I'm going to try. Did it, got a hold of them. I'm being helped.
You told me, you said these people get it.
Well, they do. They know. As I've alluded to numerous times, they know that, credit card companies, some of the loan people, because when you try to say, okay, I owe some money right now, I'm going to take out a loan from a place that charges you 33% interest or what have you. Some of them up to 98% interest, and they have ways, all kinds of tricks and stuff because they're going to make their money. They'll take liens out against your home, to repossess your cars, all this stuff. They know that these people will settle for less. They know that it may take time. They know that in the end, they want to make back at least what they loaned you. And if you can do that, yeah, are they going to hit your credit report? Yes. Okay. You're not going to die if your credit's low. You're just not going to get shiny news or anything like that. You got to be, like I said, that's another thing. I don't need new. I need, me, I don't buy it unless I need it. There's no wants for me anymore. I do needs. Needs are first. If I have something left over for a want, great. I'll still probably won't get it. But if I do get something, it's going to be on the cheap. I'll find a sale. It doesn't have to be brand new. But they get it. They tell you, look, here's what's going to happen. You owe this much on it right now, right? Yes. Here's how much we need to get from you so that we can work with them. And it's not one of these down the road we'll collect from you. No, we're going to start collecting from you now. Can you afford this? We think you can. Can you afford it? Okay, you look at it, look at your finances and say, oh, yes, I can. And you just do it. Because you got to go with just plain facts there. Do you want to go through this? No. Who does? But you were a dummy. You have to fix it, dummy. So make it right. Only makes sense. You're paying, a third of what you were paying before. They're still going to get their money. They're still going to be satisfied. There's not going to be liens against you. There's not going to be suits against you in courts. And you're making it so that down the road you don't have to worry about it again. It's just one of those things. There's your cold hard reality again. Can you accept the cold hard reality? Yes. Then do what you got to do. Suck it up, Buttercup. That's another one. Suck it up. Deal with it. Or as we used to say in the military, which one of my favorite sayings, embrace the suck. That's what we would call it. Embrace the suck. It is what it is. Go with it. You're going to come out on the other end a lot better person, in a lot better position, and happier about your life. It's kind of a no-brainer when you put it that way.
Do you remember the exact amount you were paying before? You said a third now.
2,100 down to just a little bit less than 2,100, and I'm actually it's a little bit less than a third. I'm paying $743. It was actually almost a fourth of what I was paying prior.
So we're looking at on a monthly basis, 1,400 difference between the. Where's that 1,400 going?
Oh, that 1,400 is going in a bank. Actually, it's going and catching up on other things that I didn't have to bring into Veterans Debt Assistance. Called them up, says, look, you get behind on something. Hey, I'm going to catch you up. Here's what I'm going to do. Set a payment plan with you. Boom, boom, boom. Catching it all up and just doing what you need to do. And a lot of places will work with you, especially now, which is kind of odd because you've got two different factions. They're either more evil now in their tactics to get money from you, or they're like, okay, well, look, this is a bad time in the world. We realize this. Just work with us, talk with us, keep the communication open, and work out a payment plan. Can you do this? Yes, I can do that. Boom, 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 catching it up.
I mean, you're no BS guy.
No, you can't. Well, yeah, I mean, I can't afford to be anything but.
Yeah. Did you have that moment as you're going through the process of I'm at $2,100 a month? You're quoting me at close to 700. Are you thinking, holy cow, this is the moment that actually gets me right back on track financially?
You do have that moment. First thing you have to do is get past the disbeliefs. And you're telling me that you're going to work with it and they're not going to file court cases and make you look and feel even worse. Should I believe you? How can I believe you? I was a dummy. You're telling me that you can get me out of being a dummy, but you don't know me. So why are you doing this? All that comes into play right at once. And when they just tell you, well, look, we realize things happen. There are good companies out there. There are companies that, are they making some money somewhere, some way? Great. Yes. Good. I hope they make more. Because they're helping out dummies like me. I don't want to be a dummy again in the future, but they're helping out dummies like me. Or just, sometimes people aren't being dumb. That just bad situations happen. They get caught up in things. You do have that aha moment where it's like, wow, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not a train. That's a good thing. I like this. And then that's why when things are at their darkest, when you're at rock bottom, there are lifelines out there. You have to work at it. You don't. It's not a freebie. It's not a hand out. It's a hand up. And that's one of the things I tell most people. If you go to get help, it's not a handout because you're still going to have to pay money. You're going to be paying things back, but they're going to get you out from the depths and raise you up to where at least you're treading water. Your head's above the water. If that lifeline wasn't given to me, I'd be up the creek without the proverbial paddle. So, hey, can I interview you about this? Sure. What do you want? Now, we decided to go further to do this interview here. Great. I'm no movie star. People want to, I've got a face built for radio. I tell people that all the time. If you want to have an interview with me, and if I can help one person, if this reaches one person and they say, I can get help, it's worth it. One person.
Yeah, what is that message?
There's help out there. Look in the mirror, be truthful with yourself, face that cold, hard reality, and say, mistakes, whether they were yours or not, were made. Errors were made. You're in a bad position. Instead of getting yourself worse, and let's face it, financial difficulties and financial stress lead to a whole array, a veritable cornucopia of bad issues that can happen. Drink, drugs, you name it, bad things happen. There are lifelines out there that are not going to take advantage of you. They're not going to tell everybody, hey, look, we helped so-and-so. Like people know I had difficulties. Oh, well, I don't care if people know about that. I'm a human being. I'm allowed to make mistakes. By God, have I. I've taken advantage of that too often. But if people can gain the knowledge that there are lifelines out there to help you get out from under yourself, to take you back to where you can, down the road, pay it forward to somebody else, reach out. Swallow your pride. Get rid of the shame. Quit feeling bad about yourself and beating yourself up. Do something about it. You took charge before in your life, especially all you veterans. You took charge before. You put your butt on the line with an unsigned check that was payable with your life. There's others out there to help you because of that. Take advantage of that. Know that there's a brighter day tomorrow. Take advantage of it and go with it and go with God.
Is the swallow the pride message? Somebody says, Joe, I know it's bad now. I don't need any help. I'll be able to figure this out.
The swallow the pride comes into you. Okay, you know what? You might be right. You might be able to figure it out. You might win the lottery tomorrow. Hey, everybody has a chance to win the lottery. 1 in 7.63 million. Sure. What happens if you don't? If you end up in jail and your kids are looking up and says, wow, my mom's or my dad, they're in jail. Why? Because they didn't pay their bills. We're homeless now. We're living in our car. Mom and dad couldn't pay the rent. Is your pride that important? Is looking good to society that important that you're going to put your future, your kids' future, your loved ones' future in jeopardy? Their daily security and safety in jeopardy? How much do you pay for pride? Are you willing to pay your life? Are you willing to pay your kid's life? Your spouse's life? Not me. The heck with pride. And I learned it the hard way, as many do. Whenever a bad thing happens, most people, first thing they do is look at themselves and say, what did I do wrong? Human nature. Okay. Was I proud? Am I proud that I made all those mistakes? That I believed lies or that I just flat out did stupid things? No. I got to live with me. Nobody else does. I've got to be able to look in that mirror. And as I said earlier, I have to be able to respect that person looking back, knowing you did your best. You faced up to your errors. You took action on the errors that you made, and you made it better. Self-pride goes a long way when you do the right thing. So you give your pride away at first. You knock it down and say, hey, I need help. Later on, you're going to be even more happy with yourself. You're going to have more pride in yourself for being able to drop your pride and say, do what's right.
The thing that strikes me with you and your story as somebody who has gone through the gauntlet, has come out definitely not unscathed.
Oh, definitely not.
You got enough scabs along the way. What would darkest day Joe think about present day Joe?
Darkest day Joe would look at me right now and say, why did you believe the BS in the first place? Why didn't you do what's right at the time and listen to your mind instead of your heart? Why did you allow yourself blinders? There were so many things and signs that you didn't look at because you didn't take the time, because your heart overrode your basic reasoning at times. And when you realized that some things weren't happening that weren't right, why didn't you take action? Because you didn't want to be alone? It's a lot better to be alone for the right reasons than with someone for the wrong reasons. Just to make simple life decisions based on facts, not on feelings. The darkest day Joe would say that to present day Joe. Make decisions based on reality, based on cold, hard reality and facts, not on what you wish would happen, what you want to happen. You can love somebody, but you can also love yourself more, not to let yourself get in this mess.
I mean, I think at this point, when we're looking at veterans who have their pride, we talked about swallow the pride, people who are maybe not accustomed to reaching out or, holding a hand out or up.
Yep.
Is there a strategy? You talked about people having to swallow that pride, to look for help. What's the lifeline you're extending to your fellow servicemen and women?
When you have an organization that caters to veterans, number one, they already know what you've been through. They know. They know what you've sacrificed. They know the pain, loneliness, frustration, indignities that you went through in the service. They're willing to help you because of what you did, because of the sacrifices you made. You're eligible because you're a veteran. So take what you did as a veteran and that blank check that you wrote, you could put on there, partially paid. Somebody's willing to help you out so that you're not a statistic. Somebody's willing to help you out and reach out to you so that you're not another, well, look, see, guy was in the military for so long because he was not smart enough for college. Well, we all know the truth of that. The truth is, in order to put yourself on the line for your country, there's something different about you because most people don't do it. 13% of all of our population in the United States is served into the military. So because you are special, you served in, you volunteered, you're special. There's something special about you. Take advantage. Use that specialness that you have, that you did when you first signed up to say, my country needed me. Now I need people who believed in my country. These people believe in veterans. I'm a veteran. I took care of my country. These people are here to take care of me. They realize I'm not perfect. They realize that I've made a mistake, and they want to help me. And they're not searching the lines for you. They're not out looking, who's the dummy who made the mistake here? Oh, well, let's go after him. No, you got to reach out to them. So take advantage the same way you took advantage of your fellow vets, your comrades in arms, your brothers and sisters in arms, the same way you took advantage of that friendship, that camaraderie, that closeness that you have. Reach out because this is the same type of entity. They want to help you out because of what you've done. It's not a cold, hard, nameless, faceless creature that is our government saying, we're going to nail you to the wall. And there's nothing you can do about it. They're like, no, we're here to help the nails stop. We might put a couple staples in or some push pins to hold you there for a little while, but we're really here to help. Accept it. Accept the help from somebody who cares the same way America accepted your help when you put your butt on the line.
If somebody were to say, hey, Joe, I'm kind of down on my luck. Here's my financial situation. Are you reach out to veteran debt assistance?
I would be a spokesperson for them, to be quite honest about it. If somebody helps you out and does right by you, then you owe it to them to at least speak for them. If I know something works and something's good and it helps you out of a bad situation, it's incumbent to me to pass that along. So most definitely. Here, this is the company I use. Call them up. They're going to be able to help you out. If they're not able to help you out, they'll direct you towards somebody that probably can. Undoubtedly would do that. Because of the integrity, there's an integrity factor in there. As like you said, honesty is one thing for it, but it's the integrity. If somebody tells you they're going to do something and they do it, you can trust them.
Yeah.
They have the integrity to tell you, here's what we can do. If you can do this, we're going to work with you. Why not pass that forward? That comes down to a basic, the human condition. If you find something that works, that helped you out when you were in a bad spot, to me, and I wish everyone felt this way, you owe it to everybody else to pass that on, especially if they work, especially if, it's kind of a good thing too, because even though you got yourself in a bad spot and others may have taken advantage of your bad spot, which happens all the time, you could stick it to them a little bit too. So there's a little bit of that payback factor in there. It's a part of, I like to see karma happening to them. And I'm not going to deny that either. I'm very honest about that. But most definitely, I would pass that on. I would use them by name. Veterans Debt Assistance. Use them. They're good. They do what they say they're going to do. There's no hidden things. They're not going to backdoor you later on. And pass it on. Anybody else needs help, tell them to call me, or they can call you and talk to you once they help you out. No problem with doing that whatsoever.
People are oftentimes looking at the financial component, and we talked about what you were paying before. And I'd love to just know if you can just reiterate some of those details about you were paying, sorry if I get it wrong, I'd love to just hear it again from you, but you were paying $2,100 a month and you got down to $700 a month. Can you just reiterate that for me?
Well, it was with the different payments I had to make on different things. And as my credit got lower, but I needed to do things, you reach for obviously more higher interest type stuff to help you out. When you think you can get it, take care of it on your own. But then when things don't work out, you don't really fully realize when you're trying to get the help, just how much that interest is going to hurt you. Most people don't. And they're just like, I just need the help right now. I need help yesterday. So I'll do what I have to do. When you look at it and you're saying with interest, here's how much you were paying. It was right at about $2,100, and we can get you down to $743. Can you afford that a month? Can you do that? Yes. Okay, let's do it now. Okay, please. Can we start this yesterday? Can we start last month, as a matter of fact? And they walk you through the steps on it. That's another thing. Very clear about what they want to do and how they're going to go about doing it. They let you know up front. They tell you, here's what's going to happen. And they set you up for success. You're going to get phone calls from the creditors because you have to build up a base before they actually start into the help. Here, read this to them. So you don't have to think on your feet, luckily I have a gift of being able to do that for the most part. It gets me in a lot of trouble, which I don't mind sometimes, but they actually give you, here's what you need to tell them. Tell them to contact us. It's a whole little spiel. I'm working with so-and-so. They're going to be helping through the process. Please contact them at this number, and here's their email. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. The calls become less and less. You don't have to put your block unknown caller on your iPhone or whatever phone you're using. They take you from a spot where you know you're hurting. You know you're in a bad place. You reach out. They say, okay, we can help you. Here's what it can do. Here's how we're going to help you along the way. And we're going to give you steps to deal with everything that's going on. If every company out there could do that, they'd be great companies. We all know they don't.
Are you looking at the steps from they're straightforward? I do A, then B, then C, and you're off to the races. Are you telling people that this is not BS, that it's a pretty straightforward process to get where you need to go?
All of the above. It's easy to speak, especially to fellow veterans, because most of the time they're non-BS. The same as they're used to what you're used to. Things change over the years, but the core value of, look, just give it to me straight. Rip it off, and let's deal with what we got to deal with. When you're able to say, okay, here's what happened. They know I'm in problem. Why else am I going to contact them? They look at the situation. You work out the parameters. Here are the bills that I have. Here's what we can help you with. Here's how much I'm paying. Here's how much you'll pay. Can you afford it? Now, you have a choice right then and there. You have a choice, even though people could look at it and say, it's going to knock me down a lot, but oh my gosh, my credit score is going to suffer. The best advice I give to anybody, don't buy on credit. Ever. Anything. Pay cash. Because credit, you're going to lose money. Now, the reality of the thing is people aren't going to listen to that. So
yeah.
If you know your credit score is going to hurt, but what's going to get you in the end? And look at the end result. Look at your goal. Look past what's happening. Oh, my poor credit score. I won't be able to go, buy a yacht. You wasn't going to buy a yacht before because you couldn't afford to buy a yacht. But keep your goal in mind. They're not going to BS you about it. They're going to walk you through step by step, and they're going to help you along the way to deal with everything that you're going to come in contact with. What more and better help could you possibly ask for? They make it easier for you.
The first time we talked, you said you're probably going to take one, I'm paraphrasing. You said you're probably going to take one step back to get 10 steps ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Does that capture?
That captures the entire thing because if you've already got creditors calling you, you've got difficulties, you got problems that you got to address. Your credit score is going to fall. You're going to fall behind on some things. That first it's like, oh my gosh, it's worse. But that's why I say keep that goal in mind. Keep that prize. Keep your eyes on the prize because, yes, there's a slight dip. Anytime change comes along, there's going to be a dip somewhere, a dip or a rise. It doesn't matter. Something's going to change. Something's going to be different than the status that it was before. So you Yep. If your credit score is real important to you, you're going to hurt for a minute. Where are you going to be at in 3 years? Where are you going to be at in 5 years? It's just going to get better and better and better. Whereas where you're at right now, you know, if it's possible to have negative credit score, you can reach that as well. It's just the honesty about it and putting all the steps out there, not hiding anything. Other people have asked me about it, and I've said, yeah, definitely. You start out, when you screw up, you're taking all your stripes at once. Ouch, that hurts. But you're not taking a cat of nine tails in 5 years and saying, ow, this still hurts, but it hurts a lot worse. No, you're away from that. You're on the other side of that problem. And you're also a lot smarter. You better be a lot smarter. Look back. You want to get in that situation again? Yeah, you know somebody's there to help you, but why? You've got the brains now. You got the smarts. You got out of the situation. Why are you going to repeat it? And I'd venture to say that, well, I'd have to ask veteran debt assistants, what's your percentage of repeat customers? You know, grateful that they're there for me. I hope to never be a repeat customer with them, but I'll be damned. I'm definitely going to recommend them to as many people that I know need them as possible.
That's all I got for you.
I hope that's what you need. And like I said, anything else I can help with, let me know.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, make sure to leave them below in the comment section. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to click on the thing that just popped up.